Good to see everyone that's coming on. All right, well, let's Zach, let's go and get started. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide here, guys. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. Again, like I said, this is going to be covering involving your sales process with Dynamics 365 Sales. Today, your presenters, myself. I would not be doing a lot of talking today. So surprise, surprise, you won't have to hear me much. Zach is the brains. Zach is from PAX 8, and he's the brains of the webinar today. So I'm going to be shortly here kicking it off to Zach. But for the ones that don't really know Vector Choice that much, Vector Choice is a managed service provider out of Atlanta, Georgia. We have hit the Inc. 5000 2 years in a row, the MSP 501, which is the top 501 MSPs in the world for the past 2 years. And we're growing like crazy. We're having an awesome year in 2021, and I wish all of you guys the best as well. The next slide here, Zach, is some of the locations that we have. We have Atlanta, Georgia, which is our Duluth office location, but we have Washington, D.C., North Carolina, Mobile, Alabama, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And then we have an office coming soon in Phoenix, Arizona. We do things from compliancy to international work, and we've got clients in 23 states and several other countries. We can help you with HIPAA, PCI, ITAR, SOX, GDPR, compliancy. We can do assessments for you if you have your existing IT staff, but we can help you when it comes to IT needs. So I'm going to get Zach to introduce himself and what PAX 8 is and what we're going to be covering today. Zach, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Will. I really appreciate that. And nice to meet everybody, at least virtually on the line. A little bit about myself and then PAX 8. So I'm actually originally an Atlanta native. For all y'all Southeast folks, if you happen to know where Sandy Springs is, I was technically outside the perimeter, just barely. Currently coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, which is where PAX 8 is headquartered. In case you don't know a little bit about us, we are a totally MSP designed SaaS distribution company. So that's a lot of fancy jargon for saying we sell Dynamics licensing. Microsoft, our cloud stack has now evolved over 60 plus vendors and kind of the continuity, security, infrastructure, backup, all that kind of space. And we just help shops just like Will and Vector Choice grow and evolve their business with stuff just like Dynamics 365 Sales, which is why we're all here today. Just know I might be a little bit back and forth. I was joking with Will that, hey, I'm sorry, I only got my little tiny webcam on my laptop. So if I'm looking like I'm at a racetrack, just bear with me. I promise I'll get you some good information today.
And also, before Zach kicks this off, if you have any questions throughout the whole process, please put it in the Q&A or chat, and we will get to those if we can in the middle of the presentation or at the very end. So please put those in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Will. And I do want to dedicate quite a bit of time to Q&A. I know that no matter what kind of company you're working for or you're trying to evolve, standardizing a process is going to look different for each vertical or each kind of industry. So, of course, I'd love to try and answer as many questions as I can at the end. And as Will knows, I also would be happy to do a demo with y'all one-on-one and just really deep dive into this and make sure that this is going to be a good fit for you and your company. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get it on. There's a couple of things that I'm going to cover today, and we're really going to focus on following a guided and customized sales process. There's a lot of different experiences we can look at here, whether it's tailoring interactions with customers through email, working on the go on your cell phone, staying on top of your day. But today, like I said, I'm going to focus on this following a guided sales process, which is really so important. To prevent distractions, organizations need to narrow down those optimal choices for their sellers, right? So Dynamics 365 is going to provide a full end-to-end user sales process from the creation of that lead all the way to completing of the order and closing it as a win. Any kind of the nomenclature that you see today can be absolutely customized, but this out-of-the-box format is something that I think you're really going to be impressed with. That way, as soon as it gets spun up, you're going to get the help directly inside the sales records. You can look at the guided stages, steps that are needed in order to qualify and move the deal forward. Because, I've been in sales myself before, and I don't think anybody ever forgets to put notes in on an opportunity, or maybe just never puts notes in on an opportunity. We're going to try and get away from those nightmares of a sales, right? So
A salesperson would never do that.
never will. I know certainly never at Vector Choice and certainly at PAX 8. So, what I actually want to focus on today, and like I said, you're going to have specific questions, and I love that. Please pump them into the chat. And just know this can be customized to fit all sorts of different industries. I'm actually just going to be focusing on that out of box experience today. So, in this scenario that I'm talking about, we're going to start with identifying a lead, qualifying that lead, developing the opportunity, proposing that solution to our customer through a quote, and then closing it as a win. Of course, not every sales process has to look like this, but this is really, really common. Um, so let's go ahead and start with identifying that lead. So this is your sales hub, right? Sellers start in the Dynamics 365 Sales Hub. You can see they have quite a few pre-built dashboards that show daily work related sales numbers such as activities, leads you're working on, your sales pipeline, open opportunities. In this sales activity social dashboard, which is where I pop to first, I have a pie chart showing my lead by source. And if we scroll down here, you have some more bar charts showing open and closed opportunities at the bottom. Again, these are all pre-built directly out of the box. You just have to bring in your accounts and start creating opportunities, right? We can also use this drop-down selector right here to look at a couple other sales dashboards that are going to be available to you, and just know, hey, you're not just stuck with these pre-built dashboards, even though I do think they're pretty useful. They're all based on customer feedback, right? But these can be totally customized by the user as well as the admin or manager that wants to set them up for success. So what's also really cool here is, your sellers, this isn't just, I was joking with the Will, this isn't just a fancy little flow chart, right? That gives you some numbers about all your open opportunities. You really have the ability to dive into this very deeply. And, in this case, let's look at my open leads, right? I said we're going to start with the lead process. Let's go into these records. So in the sales hub, I can move to these same leads, by the way, on the left-hand navigation tab. And before I go any deeper, let's just talk about that for about 10 seconds. As a user, everything is pretty much going to run off this toolbar over on the left. So accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, competitors, and what they're doing. Notice this isn't rocket science or suddenly IT, like, man, this is already way over my head, right? This is designed for just kind of your average Joe seller, just like I was. I used to sell media space, if you are worried, and used a CRM. So I love how it just makes sense. It's not in IT English, it's English. It's ingestible. I think it looks good, it feels good, and I hope you like it too. Let's go ahead and, back into the presentation. I'm going to pick on Karen Moen today. She's going to be my lead that I'm going to be qualifying throughout this opportunity. And here I can see that this lead was actually created in Outlook right here, email from Jeff Hay in the timeline. And I love this timeline bit, y'all. Every activity, whether it's an email, if you've logged a phone call, there actually is Teams voice and other VoIP integrations that can come into Dynamics 365 sales and auto log that, but I don't have enough time to talk about that today. But in this same email message, right, it's not just, hey, there was an email from Jeff Hay. You can actually go in and see the email. You can see the attachment that it looks like Jeff sent Karen as well. So this isn't, hey, an email happened, on at 3:21. This is exactly what happened with Karen and how she became a lead to begin with. So let's go ahead and qualify her. At the top of this lead record, I see the guided sales process called the lead to opportunity sales process. Remember, this is totally out of the box and can be completely customized based on your company needs. So the flow in Dynamics 365 sales, they're going to have a series of stages that need to be completed before I can go to qualify to develop. You'll notice that little lock there prevented me from moving into the next step, right? So to see what's needed in this step, all I need to do is click on qualify. And you see, I've got quite a few fields that actually need to be filled in before I can move into the next step. And it's actually 7 steps, right? So let's click on existing contact. You can see Karen Moen in this scenario. She was already an existing contact and it's recognizing her email. So it's going to autofill, which is really nice. If this isn't an existing contact or account, this will need to be filled in first time around. Let's go ahead and select existing account. Microsoft is our account. You see I have quite a few purchase time frame options. Let's choose immediate. Let's give a budget. Is this going to be an individual or committee purchase decision, or is this totally a net new lead? And you don't know if Karen has a boss or a committee she has to go to. So let's pretend it's just her though, and that you've confirmed it. And then here, this captured summary. I know the box is small, but this is right where you'd put your notes in. And don't worry, when you come back in and click into this lead, you're not reading off a box this small, I promise. So this is your qualify stage. You've entered some notes, and now you can see per the green check marks that appear to the left of each of those tabs, we're good to go. So there's two ways to qualify this. You can select next stage, or you can click qualify. It's all good. As you can see, I've moved to the develop stage and my lead has become an opportunity. So leads and opportunities are going to be separate records. And this is important, right? Because as you know, there's not necessarily, I'm sure y'all have an awesome conversion rate, but not every lead is going to become an opportunity. But that being said, it doesn't mean that you don't want to maintain those leads for marketing purposes, maybe for follow up, maybe, hey, they finally came around and actually want to buy your services and you have an absolute clue, or excuse me, instead of having no clue what they're doing, you have that full timeline of every interaction with that lead. So I love how that's a totally separate record. And then as soon as they're out of that stage, you can kind of put them in your active account churn as far as marketing and contact and sales stages. So really important here. So either you qualify or disqualify this lead, right? There is two options. I'm not going to show you the disqualify stage because it's not very exciting, but if this customer becomes interested in your products later, just know you can always reactivate that lead after they've been disqualified. Their information is going to be saved. So next, I actually want to identify the purchase time frame, right? Um, and then develop this opportunity. So let's continue through this guided sales process and develop this opportunity a little bit further. So as I start to develop this, I want to capture additional pieces of information about it. A couple of key pieces or information to add is an estimated close date and the estimated revenue. So one thing I really love is because, let's be honest, as a manager, you might not have time to go into every single opportunity, right? You might have a couple of reps or maybe some of your own accounts or maybe anything else better to do. But it's really nice for reporting and sales pipeline and forecasting to be able to get those key juicy parts, right? Notice you've got really what you care about right here in the top right corner of every single opportunity. So whether it's an estimated close date, estimated revenue, the status of that opportunity right here at top, you can see it's in progress as well as who the owner is. This is great for reporting, and this is actually what you have to fill in order to develop this opportunity into a proposal. So just know filling in this stuff is as simple as this drop down right here. Let's go ahead and use the calendar to give it an estimated close date. The estimated revenue, excuse me, the estimated, I'm not going to set an estimated revenue. Actually, I'm sorry. I want to show y'all something cool. We're actually based on a product catalog. It will auto estimate the revenue based on quantity and that kind of stuff. Just know if your reps, let's say you have a lot of different proposals and you just want it to be just a quick manual entry, that could totally be entered right here. So let's close this opportunity, click develop, and here I have 4 steps that need to be completed before I can move on to the proposal stage. So you see I need a customer need, a proposed solution, and then I need to identify those stakeholders and competitors before I can move on. I've entered them real quick for the sake of this presentation. You can see that it looks like Karen was interested in some laptops, some Fabricam 16 laptops specifically, and I've identified the stakeholders and the competitors, and we are on to the next stage, which is proposing a solution. So let's walk through this proposal and generate it and go ahead and send it out to one of your customers. To propose a solution to my customer, I'm going to add product line items to this opportunity. And I do this by moving over to this product line items tab here. Dynamics 365 Sales is going to include the ability to set up a product catalog that includes all products and services that you sell, along with their pricing information. So when adding a product to an opportunity, I need to first add a price list that will designate the price of the products I add. So if you have multiple retail lists, multiple product list, if suddenly something gets prioritized and that's an upcharge, it'll support all of those different items. So when I click into price list, I'm going to use my retail price list. The next option to select revenue type. So I have two options for revenue type: user provided, which is just like it sounds, the user enters the amount that it's going to be. There also is system calculated, which is what I want to talk about today. And I really love this, again, coming back to standardizing that sales process and taking the guesswork and the manual entry away from your salespeople. Because the more you put on your salespeople, I'll just be honest, it seems to be the more that gets missed. Am I right? So the more that you can spoon feed them exactly what needs to be done and then really minimize the steps, it's amazing how much it can really help the data and just keeping of the good data and not all the stuff that you don't really want. Now we're going to go ahead, and now that it's system calculated revenue, let's add some products. So this is going to be an existing product. The creating of a net new product, requires a lot of manual entry, right? The first time around, Microsoft doesn't know what you charge, doesn't know exactly what you're selling, right? So there is a little bit of manual entry up front to build out these product catalogs, but once you've got it, the search is fantastic. So you can see I've selected existing product. I typed in fab just to leverage the smart search. Here are all my different laptops that I can apply to this quote. And remember, Karen was interested in that Fabricam laptop 16. That price auto-filled because it's been system calculated based on my product catalog. Now you can see the quantity will default set to 1, but let's say it needs to be 10. I can then save and close this new opportunity line, and it's been created in this proposal stage. So love this bit, and I want to pause right here. You're in this proposal stage. Anybody can come in and see exactly what you've proposed and even the quote that's been finalized, because of course the last thing you want is sending out a quote and then it getting altered or somehow after the fact and you not being able to track that. So that's also a great way to be like, hey, here's your original proposal you sent them. The quote you ended out sending out was way different. Like, what happened there? A lot of tracking and knowledge here in this guided sales process. So let's go ahead and actually move into that quotes tab, right?
Zach, can I ask a question off of that? So on
Absolutely.
let's say that you sent a quote and you did quantity of 10, but they come back to you and say, well, I really need 15. Can you save the quantity of 10 quote if you ever need to go back to that? Like a revision?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And this is actually both good and bad. But once a quote has been finalized, Will, it actually is not able to be altered. And that is for purposes just like this, right? Ideally, finalized quotes are supposed to be kind of a legal document, right? So you don't really want somebody coming in and knowing they can change or alter a document. That's when you would, and here's kind of the workflow, y'all, in case you're worried. Okay, so I have to go through and create a whole new quote, line item by line item. Not necessarily. What you're able to do is create a copy of that same quote that's been finalized. It now is a live quote. You alter the quantity, resave it, and then it saves as a new document, and you have your two quotes under that same proposal. Does that answer your question? Do I need to go a little deeper? That was a great
No,
question. Thank you.
that does. Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a new quote. And the quote is automatically created. Here's what's really nice: based off the proposal and those products that you were adding in that product line item stage. Just know some things that you're never going to be able to change. The quote ID, every document is going to be that. But I really like this. If this has had to be revised 10 or 12 times, Is this user error? Was this actually a good reason for that? It's a great way to kind of track, let's just put it bluntly, how efficient your staff is, right? Sometimes there's good reasons to have 10 or 12 revisions to a quote. Sometimes, man, just a lot of stuff has slipped through the weeds, right? Note the name of the opportunity, currency, opportunity itself, all locked because you've been determining this in the qualify and develop stage. There's no reason to enter this information again, right? We're here to streamline and get this out to your customer as quick as we can. Here's what's really nice. As soon as I activate quote, this is where it's going to save it. So when this quote is created, the products that I've added to the opportunity are automatically added. I can confirm that this was done by looking at the quote lines as well. I see that Fabricom laptop with the correct pricing is in the quote with my quantity of 10. And now I'm ready to send that to the customer. So let's go ahead and export that as a PDF. And notice a lot of this I mentioned as a user experience. And let's take a quick step back, yo. Everything to kind of dive in is running off this toolbar, whether it's on your browser, desktop icon, on your phone. Everything pretty much runs off the top toolbar when you're actually within that deeper opportunity. So, this isn't just creating an order, revising it, closing the quote, assigning it to somebody else, emailing the link. I'm actually going to export this as a PDF to make sure that it can be stored legally and never altered, right? To export this PDF dialog comes up. Let's review the contents of the PDF. It's looking good to me. So let's go ahead and email it to the customer. Notice when you pop up your email, and Will, I know we're going to hit on this at the end a little bit, but y'all, the integrations within Office 365 and Dynamics 365 sales is probably the biggest win. There is no multiple windows. Reporting is all consolidated in one database. Notice I clicked email to my customer and it popped up automatically with the ability to come in here and send them a message through Outlook. Now, this is also an add-on called Sales Insight, but I've had a ton of customers ask me, hey, what's this email engagement piece over here? Activity will not be followed, schedule email to be sent at a later time. Know that this is absolutely a capability within Dynamics 365 is this email intelligence, long story short. So if I wanted to follow this email, I'm going to have a few options. Let's say I'm sending it to you, Will. You're my only person on here, so I'm going to pick on you. I send it to Will and he's a new lead and I want to see how fast he gets on this proposal, right? It's a good one. It's going to make my month. So I want to get an alert when he opens it. I also want to go deeper than that. I want to get an alert on the attachment, which is that quote that I sent within the email, right? Because it doesn't do me much good if he opened the email, but then didn't open that quote that I sent in there. What's also nice is, let's say he hasn't opened that email within 2 days and you want to follow up. You're probably going to want to schedule that now, or most likely you're going to forget, at least if you work like me, sadly. So let's go ahead and set a reminder to follow up on this email, schedule it to be sent at a later time. Hey, if you're in different time zones and you want this to pop up first thing in the morning, awesome. But this is called Dynamics Sales Insights, and it is a very juicy part of Dynamics 365 sales, really giving you that email intelligence to go out and get a bunch of leads going and flowing through your pipeline. Got a little sidetracked. Let's go back to this email message that I'm sending to Microsoft. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. I get a little excited about the nerdy tech stuff. I'm sorry, y'all. So you can see my signature is added to this message content here. So and now I get a notification, and in this instance, I want all this to be tracked, right? It does make you give an extra little tracker of, yes, you want the attachment to be tracked as well. And I've already gone over the reminders and then sending an email at a later time. Again, just great for your sales staff who might have a ton of leads to come through or a ton of stuff going on in their day, and they can just set and automate these reminders right here. Here's kind of what those conditions for this reminder are going to look like. Pretty straightforward. If I do not receive a reply by blank, I want to get a reminder. So now this email is complete. It's got the quote right here that's being tracked. You see my email message. And notice the main thing here, y'all. It's not like I'm revolutionizing the world sending an email and tracking it, but I never left Dynamics 365 sales, which is going to be the key for your seller. What's also really nice is when it comes back down to reporting and capabilities, there's no manual entry of like, for instance, with Salesforce. I don't know if we have any Salesforce user on the call. Really robust tool, but a lot of manual entry. If you're sending emails, if you're having tasks as far as tracking of activities, a lot of manual entry, a lot of dual entry from users, and this eliminates that if you're an Office 365 user. So,
Zach, I got a question. So
yep.
the reminders, and when you popped up and they're asking if you get a reply back, will Dynamics know if someone replies back to your email? Is that all tied, integrated together?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, Will. It's all going to flow through that timeline matching email domains. So, and I might be saying this wrong, Will, forgive me, but is it wnobles@vectorchoice.com, your email?
Yeah. Yep.
So if I'm smart enough to remember that, I can promise you Dynamics is smart enough to remember. So when you send out an email and then it gets a ping back from that same domain that it's tracking, it's going to auto update it on your timeline there within the opportunity. And then it's also going to get rid of that reminder because you've received your reply. Now, of course, there can be other conditions that you set up. But I think if they replied, everybody would agree you wouldn't want to send a reminder email to make sure that they replied. So
Sure.
I promise it'll turn it off, and that's really, really cool, right? Not, because how embarrassing would the alternative be, right? I send you, I have a reminder to that quote that I sent you, and then you respond back, and then an automated email at 8 Eastern gets you and it's like, hey, Will, did you have a chance to look at that proposal? And you're like, you dummy, like I sent you that email last night, right? So
Yep. Yep.
nobody wants to deal with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and send that email. So I come back to the export to the PDF dialog here. There are a couple other options that I can consider downloading the PDF if you want to save a copy. I also love this bit right here, save to SharePoint. Let's say you have a standard business flow as a manager, or maybe you're trying to develop a standard business flow as a manager where all quotes that get sent out as finalized proposals get shared in a SharePoint site for you to go over and review for inevitable forecasting that you're going to do for next year, maybe proposals that you're going to go and try and get some cross-sell, upsell opportunities with your clients. How about one click to make sure that it ends up in the correct SharePoint library? I promise you, there is nothing that streamlined, and it's really, really awesome. Love this. If you just, hopefully you're all are thinking about the earth and not printing a ton of stuff anymore, especially that we're not in person, but you can print that quote for your customer and you can also get a quote summary. Okay, so now that I've successfully created that product quote and sent it to my customer, let's close it as a win, right? That's why we're all here, to make some money, to feel good, to share it as a win. The customer liked the quote we sent and is ready to purchase those laptops. So let's go ahead and walk through the process and close it as a win. Since the customer is ready to purchase, right from the quote record, we can create the order. So while Dynamics 365 Sales can create the order and store the record, it's not going to have the order fulfillment capabilities. So if you have a separate order fulfillment system, you are going to have the ability to integrate that easily with standard open APIs. The good news is I know that's going to be my problem and Will's problem over at Vector Choice and not y'all's. Dynamics does, and in case you're wondering, what do I mean by fulfillment system? Let's take a 10,000 foot level. This is going to be your ERP tool you might use for billing, and let's talk about some common ones. QuickBooks, something like that. NetSuite. Trying to, and Zero with an X is another one. Accounting and what you'll actually use to bill those customers and track cash flow. That those accounting softwares. Dynamics Business Central, like I said, is the one they would love for you to use. But no, if you're currently on something, Dynamics 365 Sales can integrate that with an API. So jumping back into this quote, let's go ahead and create an order right here at the top. So with one click, we set the status reason as one, the date, the description, whether it's we are good to close it, and then calculate the actual revenue. So because we're creating the order, this is all auto filling, right? Which is really, really nice. You're not having to manually enter all of this. Microsoft is just assuming if you're creating an order, it's a win. Um, Once we know that the order was fulfilled, we can generate an invoice and send it to the customer. And a lot of times, what I'll see here is a lot of like e-signature or something that might be integrated within Dynamics 365 Sales, whether it's a DocuSign or a Sign Now. What's really nice is as soon as that order goes through, uh, it's kind of a legal agreement, right? So I know when I send it over to Will, this actual proposal can have an e-signature integrated right there at the bottom. He fills out his e-signature and then you send it directly to the invoice. And now we all know you've got your cash flow coming in. You've got the invoice sent over to him. It's really, really cool. And it's baked right into that proposal.
And
Um,
Zach, that's what you were saying. Come from a question that we just had.
oh,
Is
really? Okay.
can they sign off? So when you send that to them, is there a link where they can sign off on the proposal, like an e-sign, or does it have to go through like a DocuSign or something like that?
So here's the best part, Will, is it's actually in that proposal. They never even need to leave the invoice or the attachment. It is baked right there. And the good news is Dynamics takes care of all that hard part. You're like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
Okay.
Um, and how nice is that as an end user, right? Because who wants to go in? Suddenly it's redirecting you to a website. You got to create an account because it's a legal entity, right? Nope, thing of the past. The customers that send you the dynamic sales proposal, they'll be the ones that need to be licensed with DocuSign or Sign Now. And then as a user, you just fill in your signature, with ideally that click of the button, right? If you're already a user, it has your written signature or you can initial it. So
Okay.
really, really cool. And then talk about speeding up your sales process, right? I don't know how many folks on the line have just been waiting on your to get that attachment back from your customer that they've signed it, or hell, you might even have to swing by their office and be like, have you signed that proposal yet? I'm seriously, I've
Yeah.
been waiting weeks to
Oh
start
yeah.
this project.
I've
So
got I've got to print it out, then I've got to scan it, but I'm not close to a printer, so I can't sign it right now. So yeah.
yep, exactly. Or hey, you sent this to the wrong person. Hey, did you know you were supposed to send this to Vector Choice in Baton Rouge and not to the one in Duluth? That's who has to approve all of these not that I would ever make that mistake. But you can these are all things that happen, right? So
Yep.
I love that e-signature capability baked in. It's really, really cool. And of course, just streamlines that whole sales process and really turns an opportunity to a close to win. I mean, it's going to depend on the customer, but it's not like you can quantify how much that could be worth to your business, right?
Yep.
Um, so cool. Let's go ahead and create the invoice. So this completes the end-to-end sales process from that lead to order out of the box experience. We can see that this invoice below references the original opportunity record name. So note that's how everything gets tracked is you have your original opportunity and then everything can flow underneath it almost like a document timeline in and of itself. And I use that word timeline a ton because I think that's what really, from the user perspective, stands out in Dynamics 365 Sales is how they just spoon feed all of the activity related to a lead, contact, opportunity, account. It's just right there and easy to ingest. So, um, okay, so let's go back. We can go ahead and look at the original opportunity over here, right? Who the contract it is, the customer. You can dive into all of those individually. When we come back to the opportunity, we see that it is all closed and in a read-only mode. All activities completed were captured in the timeline. Like I mentioned right here, this can go back in with anybody who has access to Dynamics 365 Sales. You can also lock it down if for any reason you only wanted managers looking at closed as one opportunities or something like that. Totally fine. So now that we've gone ahead and done that entire sales process, we're ready to go back to our dashboard and see what's next. Are we going to go in with the assistant that's bringing up what we're supposed to be what was supposed to be done today as a scheduled thing? Should we go into some open opportunities and dive in there? Really, the world is your oyster at that point. So just kind of closing out here. I know that was a lot to ingest, and the main thing I want to focus on is if this caught your interest, I'd love to talk to you more. Whether this comes into y'all actually moving forward with sales or just doing a discovery to see if it's going to fit your business. But know from this whole process of identifying the lead to closing as a win, there's a couple key benefits. For starters, driving that consistent end-to-end sales process takes the guesswork from out of your sales staff, and I think it's becoming critically important, excuse me, word vomit, with new onboarding, right? We've been lucky enough to grow quite a bit during COVID, and I'm sure there's a lot of businesses that are excited to get out of that funk and then get back to normal, right? And I'm right there with you. But when it comes to new user hiring or onboarding, having the guesswork taken out of it not only gives you a lot of comfort as a manager or a trainer, but also as a new employee. You come in, it's like, wow, this company's really got it figured out. I dove into the CRM. Here's exactly what needs to be filled out. It's easy to be tracked. I can filter out just for my accounts and find out what I want. So, and then of course, what's this actually mean? You close more deals by guiding those sellers with what to do. I mentioned a couple of ways you can really make that process happen faster with eSign, as well as cutting out information you necessarily don't need and then just focusing on the good data. But that's really the key here is deals are getting closed more and faster. Finally, that proactive tracking of that email communication, it does require the enterprise version of this. But that is a huge win that I've had a lot of customers here at Pax8 come to me specifically looking for that. Hey, we do it a lot of lead generation, and we would love to know who's actually opening our emails and attachments. That can be baked in right there into sales. So I really appreciate y'all's time today. I actually want to leave it here to Will in case you need to reach out to him to schedule a deeper demo or just to ask some more questions. But I'd love to open it up for Q&A and try and answer what I can if there is some questions trickling in, Will.
Yeah, Zach, I do have one.
Yep.
Is what what version of Office 365, the like E3 5 license, do you get Dynamics with, or is that an add-on? Is a question.
So that's a great question, Will. And these are actually all going to be add-ons. And one thing I want to make clear is you could actually use dynamic sales if you were a G Suite user, or I'm trying to think, visionary email communications back back in the day, right? Dynamics doesn't necessarily care what kind of Office 365 user you are. That
Okay.
being said, a lot of the key integrations and cool stuff about it require you to be an Office 365 user. So is this going to come included with any licenses? Unfortunately not, but it can be added on to any users on a per user basis. And that's one thing I always like to mention. And they also have team member licenses. So let's say you've got a sales staff of 4 or 5 folks, and they're the ones out there really grinding, doing your lead generation, putting proposals together, staying in touch with clients. But of course, you want everybody in your company, let's say it's of 20, to have access to account records or know who contacts are, or to be able to access that timeline I mentioned. They have team member licenses that are incredibly affordable. I'll never say cheap because that would make it a commodity, but I will say incredibly affordable. So let's say Will is just one of our accountants, and he doesn't do any selling, but he just wants to make sure who the right contact is. This team member license will give him read-only privileges in that Dynamics 365 sales. What's also really nice is without those team member licenses, you're able to receive accounts or contacts or proposals through email and also through Teams. So I mentioned, is it included in an Office 365 licenses? No, they'd like everybody to buy it, but man, there's a lot of good reasons to be an Office 365 user. And Will, that's everything from, Exchange Online Plan 1 or
Yep.
or your business basic. If y'all aren't using Teams, please look into Teams. But
I
um,
agree. I agree.
but yeah, but so at the lowest level license, and I will be upfront with you though, there's a lot of security kind of stuff coming through dynamic sales and CRM systems in general. I'd recommend a little bit of security on that environment for sure. So
Yep.
maybe if you're looking into that, there could be some Microsoft security add-ons that Will can talk it through. There's some third-party vendors he might be using that provide a similar service, but for a lot of good reasons, you wouldn't just want an email mailbox sitting out there. But
And here's another question I got is Dynamics able, are you able just to turn on Dynamics and set it up yourself, or do you have to have a consultant sort of get it set up initially?
so this is a great question, and if it sounds like you might have looked at some of the previous dynamic solutions, and this is a big myth that I love breaking. Now, what I'll say is with the out of box experiences, as I'll call it, and that's what I've shown you today. Um, Now there's a lot of custom entities. I'm sure you'd like some customizations, integrating actually with that billing solution. There's a lot of reasons why you might want a consultant. But what I'll tell you right now is, especially for net new customers, and I've been talking with Will about this, if you know that you need to improve your sales process and you just need to get started, there's a lot of people that are like, man, well, I don't have the money to deal with a consultant and to deal with all this. I know I need some help, but I don't even know where to begin. I think Dynamic Sales Professional, the lowest level license, is a great place to get started. You can come in, build out your accounts, build out your contacts, build out your opportunities, let your users start to use it and actually ingest it, garner their feedback, and then down the road, if there's some customizations and some tweaks, or maybe you actually do want to integrate it into your ERP or billing platform so that you don't have to do another manual data entry, because that's what we're all trying to avoid, right? That's kind of the little, gorilla in the room is, I don't want to have to enter this data twice. And I totally get that, but I always like to talk about a crawl, walk, run approach. So I'm not sure who asked that question. It's a great question, but do you need a consultant to use it out of the box? I would say certainly not. And actually, I suggest you do spin it up and start using it, because the idea is to really streamline a sales process, not replicate exactly what you had. We're always trying to tweak to find better ways to improve. So use it first, see some things you would like to change that are consistent, and then you can always bring in that consultant who can come in after the fact and tweak and change it. And here's the good news is, that doesn't have to be you yourself, right? Will's whole company, Vector Choice, that's their problem, and that's why they're your managed service provider, right? So we'd probably end up coming in and helping a little bit, but that I hope I answered your question. I know that's kind of a roundabout way. um, some of the more dedicated like finance tools and that kind of stuff that are in Dynamics, it would probably be best to start with a consultant, but they really have designed the sales application to be easily digestible for dumb sales guys just like me, just being honest.
I got a comment earlier. Remember, there's salespeople on this call.
Yeah, hey, and I'm one of them. So when I'm speaking from experience here.
Yeah.
I've had a few sales jobs, sold some media space, was an account manager at an ad agency, and I've seen a couple systems, and I've also seen a lot of mistakes that get made. So I promise I'm speaking out of a place in my heart when I say I'm the dumb sales guy. I promise.
All right. The last question that I see here is, can you brand the proposals or quotes, whatever you want to call them? Can you brand them with logos or colors and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, let's say you want to establish a template. You can actually upload entire SharePoint libraries as sales literature and send those out. That, can the platform itself, can I log in with, let's say Will's my customer and show him my whole CRM system and it say Vector Choice? No, but let's
Yes.
say any proposals, quotes, invoices, emails, all brandable. And really just think about it as one huge SharePoint library.
Sure.
Like I said, it gets complicated. I know if we got salespeople on the line, y'all definitely don't want me talking about SharePoint, but It actually is nice because what it means is all the data gets stored in one spot. So
Yep.
when it comes out to, okay, we need a branded template of every quote that goes out as a PDF, boom, here it is. So yeah, very customizable. Not only the platform and its nomenclature, right? I mentioned that entire, so let's say you don't want accounts, all of the naming formats can be changed to totally fit your business, and all the documentation can be branded to fit your business as well.
Good deal. Well, Zach, I think that was the last question we had. Thank you so much for the presentation today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Call the office. We can set up a demo with Zach and his team to go over Dynamics. We can support Dynamics from the Vector Choice side at your MSP. So love to see if you guys are interested in that. I try to do all my webinars, Zach, is we're not selling, we're educating on what's out there and all the different technologies we've done, from cybersecurity to phone hosting to now, Dynamics. We want just to educate our customers on what's out there, what's capable of utilizing the technology that is available, and not trying to get away from the old days of spreadsheets and Excel documents.
Yes, please. If there
Yeah.
is one thing I can leave your customers with this, and I really appreciate the time today, Will, and everybody who hopped on the line, is I promise there is a better way of tracking customers than email and Excel. And please let us show it to you. If you do decide to book a demo, I promise. I always start, and Will tell you, with just a discovery, right? I'm here as a business solution consultant. That's my actual title. And sometimes this isn't the right fit. So I promise, if you're looking at just CRM in general, evaluating just how you can increase your top line revenue, this is literally why I get paid, and I'd love to talk to you.
Cool. Well, Zach, appreciate it.
Yep.
Audience, thank you for coming on today, and everyone have a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful weekend. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you. Have a good one.